The last time I ran the Enjomor, it was a bit stiff, and since everyone's had trouble with the brown stock piston ring, which I did leave in my Enjomor, I'm going to pull it out and measure it and get a replacement. I'm doing a voiceover because my roommate was making noise in the kitchen off camera there. So the nice thing about the Enjomor is it's really easy to get the head off. There's just 4 head bolts. When I went to take them out, the top left one that I'm doing right now was actually a little loose. And when I found that, I did remember that when I put it back together last time, it had I had put a line of sealant around the O-ring for the head gasket because of the odd head gasket arrangement on this engine. So after I get these 4 screws out, and I see my camera is not focusing on the head of the engine. I should have double checked that when I was setting up. The the head is stuck on, so I just used the compression when I roll it over to pop the seal, since that gasket maker is not a very good adhesive. So give it a little tug there. It didn't want to come off. So I'm going to move things out of the way and give that engine a little turn, and you can see it pop the head off there with the compression. I'll have to clean all that goo off of there, but it shouldn't be a problem. I'll get out the Scotch-Brite with the little Scotch-Brite wheels for my Dremel and get that cleaned off no problem. So I then had to take the big end off, 2 screws for the strap on the big end, and I do have that marked so that I can make sure that that strap is put back on in the same direction. I had it marked from the last time I took it off, because if I remember correctly, the Enjomor did have a leaky water jacket seal, which is also why I had decided to put that sealant in the head gasket, because the head gasket for this, instead of being a copper one, is an O-ring that is pressed against the head, and the O-ring is in an indent, and I don't think it sticks out enough. So I push that big end in, turn around so the piston's out front here, and push the connecting rod out. And on all these engines, the connecting rod doesn't actually fit up through the cylinder, so just pop the wrist pin out, and the piston is in decent shape. It's got a lot of carbon on it, but these little engines run rich on low octane fuel, so they develop a lot of carbon at low temperature like that. So, and then I have a really cheap caliper I ordered from Banggood, and when I went to use it, my battery was dead, so I had to change the battery real quick. But I also just keep batteries with it because it's I use it so rarely that the batteries are generally dead every time I go to use it. and I just do not remember to take the battery out and set it inside the package. So, but these button cells have gotten so cheap that I forget how many I got for a few bucks, and just keep a couple in the box with it. Go. And I measured a few different spots, not because I don't think that the piston is round, but it's because I want to use the caliper a few times to see if there's any error in the reading it's giving, and get an average of the measurements the caliper gives me. So it came out to about 19.8 millimeters. So I texted myself to make a note, and when I measured the thickness of the O-ring, it was a 2.4 millimeter gap. So, and that's the width of the thing. I also measured the inside of the piston bore there. It also came out 19.8 millimeters there. So I think that probably what's happening, because when I went to get an O-ring, there were not really any 19 millimeter O-ring options. They were all 20 millimeter O-rings. So I have a feeling that that's a 20 millimeter O-ring that's being squished into the cylinder there. But yeah, it pretty reliably read 2.4 millimeters on the way around there. So I ordered 2 or 3 different sizes of O-rings that are close to 20 millimeter outer diameter and 2.4 millimeter thickness. So whenever those arrive, we will try them out and see which one fits in the Enjomor, and if it runs a little better.